I've got a shock for you today, and I know Wendy's here. She'll be shocked. The President of the United States does not keep his word. Doesn't that shock you?
Well, actually, we've heard that before.
I know.
On this show.
One is just coming out. He said over and over again, if you like your health insurance plan, you can keep it. Ha-ha. But it was already in the fine print of the law that that isn't true. Millions of people are finding out about it now because they're losing their insurance thanks to the new health care law.
Yeah, and with Obamacare websites not working, the White House is now giving people extra time to sign up for new insurance plans. Ephraim Graham has the latest.
A grace period for Americans to sign up for Obamacare. Monday, the White House granted a 6-week extension, pushing the deadline for uninsured Americans to sign up for coverage to March 31st. But lawmakers from both parties say that is not enough. Republicans and even some Democrats now are calling for a 1-year delay in penalties Americans will face if they remain uninsured.
There should be a suspension because there are too many problems, not only with the enrollment, but with the mandate, the taxes, the fees, and the penalties.
Meanwhile, a new report from NBC News states the president knew ahead of time millions of Americans would lose their current insurance coverage. In 2009, the president promised if you liked your health plan, you could keep it. But NBC reports even Obamacare regulations from 3 years ago admit that 40 to 67% of customers would not be able to keep their policy. Wyoming Senator John Barrasso told ABC's This Week that millions of Americans are discovering what the president promised isn't true.
The president made promises that this was going to be cheaper than your cell phone bill, easier to use than Amazon, and you could keep your doctor. People all across the country, George, are seeing that's just not true.
Estimates of how many people could lose insurance range from 7 million to 16 million.
As Americans find out premiums are higher than they were promised, I think you're going to see more and more frustration build, more and more Democrats and Republicans calling for delays, for repeals.
Lawmakers vowed to continue pressing the White House for extensions. But millions of insured Americans should expect to get letters in the mail about premiums going up or their coverage being canceled altogether. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
When you expect a car salesman to hype a car, oh, it's a pre-owned beauty, it's been inspected, you know, it's only been driven by an old minister to church and that kind of stuff. And they lie, but you expect them to lie. You know, you expect that's hype. You don't expect the president. He said it over and over again. If you like your health care, you can keep it. You remember?
Yeah, I sure do. Maybe he actually thought he was telling the truth at that time, and now it's just gotten all out of control.
But the written law made it clear that it couldn't happen, and that's what NBC News is bringing out, that it was there, set in stone already, and so either A, he can't read, and that's a terrible thing, or he doesn't tell the truth, and that's an equally terrible thing. I mean, you know, it's a shame. You're supposed to trust your leaders.
Well, with 7 million people now possibly losing their insurance, it's having the exact opposite effect that the president wanted it to have.
I don't know what he wanted. What he wanted to do was to have a giant socialistic European-style government takeover of a major portion of our economy. That's what he wanted. He didn't care whether it worked or didn't work. What he cared was that the power grab took place and the bureaucrats got control. Well, it's like the dog that caught the bus. He didn't know what to do once he got it. And I think that's what's happening now, the thing's blowing up in their face. Well, switching to something that really was beyond the control of people, people on the East Coast now are marking the anniversary of a major natural disaster. John Jessup has that story from Washington. Here's John.
That's right, Pat. Today marks 1 year since Superstorm Sandy hit the East Coast, killing dozens of people and causing billions of dollars in damage. Many businesses are on the path to recovery, but thousands of people are frustrated and still battling with insurance companies for money to rebuild their homes.
Fill out paperwork, you submit this, submit that, and then by the, at the end they just tell you you don't qualify for whatever reasons.
We're using our savings and retirement.
For many, today will be a day of healing and remembrance. Some plan to light up parts of the shore with candles tonight, while people along the Jersey Shore will shine flashlights. Operation Blessing volunteers joined with servicemen to help the survivors clean up after Sandy hit the area last year. At least 15 people are dead following a brutal storm that swept across Britain and Western Europe Monday. It's called the St. Jude storm, and it's one of the worst to hit the region in years. People in some areas saw wind gusts up to 120 miles an hour. One man reportedly was killed when a flying brick hit him in the head. The wind and rain snapped hundreds of trees, flooded streets, and stopped traffic in the air and at sea. Germany saw at least 6 deaths. Britain had 5. The Netherlands and Denmark each had 1. Gay marriage activists are working in more than 20 states to try to make same-sex marriage legal. As Heather Sells reports, they're filing lawsuits, targeting county clerks, and hoping for a big win in the president's home state of Illinois, where supporters of traditional marriage recently held a rally.
Thousands gathered at the Capitol to urge lawmakers to back traditional marriage, even as a smaller crowd of gay activists gathered. And for the second time this year, success, as traditional marriage supporters held off a vote in this high-stakes state.
It is where Barack Obama came from. It is the state that he promised the LGBT community and lobbyists that he would be able to win for them.
Davis and other conservatives say black lawmakers in the Illinois House are making the difference, refusing to redefine marriage. In the South, LGBT activists are using a different strategy. Gay couples are targeting county clerks, asking them to record their marriage licenses from other states. They're even using the tactic in North Carolina, where voters just last year approved a constitutional amendment in favor of traditional marriage.
What we wanted to do was just to create a public record of our marriage.
I did not see any legal reason why I could not record that document.
The National Organization for Marriage says filing gay marriage licenses in these states is illegal and predicts the cases will ultimately end up in court.
A same-sex couple who is issued an illegal or invalid same-sex marriage license in a state such as North Carolina invariably will take it to the courts, and they will use it as a lever to try to invalidate that state's constitutional amendment to define marriage in one man and one woman.
In New Mexico, the Supreme Court will soon decide on the issue. Its consideration was forced after 7 county clerks began issuing same-sex marriage licenses in absence of any state law explicitly defining marriage. What just happened in New Jersey may strengthen the case for gay marriage. A judge there ruled that the state must allow gay marriages in order to comply with Supreme Court rulings this summer. Lawsuits in 20 other states are making the same case, but traditional marriage supporters disagree.
They're using an incorrect reading of the Windsor decision, because in the defense of marriage, the states are still allowed by Section 2 to define marriage for themselves.
At this point, 14 states have redefined marriage to include gay couples, and 35 states have banned gay marriage. They're numbers that could drastically change depending on how these tactics play out. Heather Sells, CBN News.
The legal battle over Bible banners at high school football games in Southeast Texas is heating up again. CBN first brought you the story of the Bible verse banners last fall. Cheerleaders at Kuntz High School displayed Bible verses on run-through banners for their football team. An atheist group filed a complaint saying Bible verses should not be displayed at football games. The district judge had ruled in favor of the cheerleaders, though, but now the Kuntz School District has appealed the ruling, essentially claiming the cheerleaders are part of the government. Attorneys for the students have filed a brief defending the cheerleaders' free speech rights. They say no court has ever held that a student speaking on a message of his or her own choice is a government speaker. The United Nations is taking steps to protect the Earth from asteroids. Scientific American reports the UN plans to set up an international asteroid warning group so member nations can share information about potential threats from space. The magazine says if astronomers detect an asteroid that does pose danger, a UN committee will help coordinate a mission to launch a spacecraft to hit the object and push it away from Earth. A former astronaut says finding the deadly space rocks early enough is important in order to have enough time to get ready for a mission. If the asteroid is found too late, then the only option left may be simply to evacuate the area where it will hit. Pat, I was reading earlier this morning that scientists estimate there are about 1 million near-Earth asteroids large enough to level a city the size of New York City, so this seems long overdue.
Well, it is. It's way too late. It won't do any good. By the time they have gotten themselves together, something will have hit and destroyed us. I wrote a book called The End of the Age that had a good deal of popularity. It was a novel, but it was based on biblical facts. And mine, the asteroid, was 1 kilometer, which is 0.6 of a mile, and it weighed 3 billion pounds, and it was sufficient to essentially destroy large parts of the Earth and foul up navigation, et cetera, et cetera. It wouldn't take much of one of these big rocks hitting to make major damage. I'm talking about huge damage, and they are so-called extinctors running around that could wipe out our civilization. That's what happened to the dinosaurs. They believed that there was a big explosion that took place and an asteroid or a comet hit us, and we've been spared that, thank goodness. But Jesus said, and you read it, what he said, except those days were shortened, no flesh will be remaining. Nobody will be alive on the earth except, but he said, for the sake of the elect, those days are shortened. So if one of these things comes in, I do think UN action is a bit tardy. Wendy?
Aren't you glad we didn't live with the dinosaurs?
Yes.
So frightening.
Apparently it was so pleasant, it was so warm, and the vegetation was so lush that those creatures kept growing bigger and bigger and bigger. It was, it really did. And then when it hit, boy, it wiped them out. It was just so it happened very suddenly. It wasn't a long-term thing.
I'm glad they're gone.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we don't have any extinctors hitting the earth these days. Let's hope not.
Texas Attorney General Greg Abbott is appealing a federal judge's ruling that struck down some of the state's new abortion law. A federal judge ruled Monday the measures are unconstitutional, blocking them from taking effect today. The judge says the law would violate the rights of abortion doctors to do what they deem best for their patients and would unreasonably restrict access to abortion clinics. But supporters of the law say it provided safety for women by holding abortion clinics to common medical standards. The Texas Attorney General thinks the case will eventually be decided by the Supreme Court. A Texas man survived being hit by lightning twice over the weekend. 31-year-old Casey Wagner was at an off-road competition near Dallas when a storm hit. He was standing under a tree when he was hit by lightning. He dropped to his knees and was struck again. Wagner was taken to a hospital where he was treated and released. He says it was God that kept him alive, and he plans to start going to church more. And you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.